for you. What did you, going into the race, what is it that you wanted to accomplish in this preliminary round, and how did the race unfold from your point of view?
I just wanted to get through as easy as possible and not be in traffic. And so I was happy that Megan wanted to, take it out, and I just sat behind her for the first, 3 or 4 laps. And yeah, the race, I'm glad that she did that, and then I'm glad that I was able to, run through as easily as possible and start resting for Saturday.
I want to let some of these other people ask some questions, but I'd like to talk to you just briefly when we're done about how you view being the world champion.
Is it nice to have barriers the right height?
Yeah, the barriers at the right height are great. Not falling on the water jump is great. My last 2 races were, I felt really strong and I felt like I ran well. They just had, each race had an annoying aspect that, the barrier's not my fault, but the fall is my fault. And so they're coming back from Europe. I know I'm fit, but I left a lot on the table, I felt like. So having today go smoothly with no drama was great.
What was it like when back in Oslo when you were approaching that barrier? At what point did you know it was off? And then I know you.
It looked high coming into it, and then when I went over it, I was like, I said a curse word in my head, and then as Let's Run, I think, so beautifully tweeted the wacky waving inflatable arm tube man, Emma Coburn version, and then I went nuts. And then if you look at that clip, Hyven is looking at me for several strides and then turns and says, "Yeah, it's high." So we, in my head I was thinking, do we stop or do we keep going? And if I stop, will other people stop? Do we start over? And then how does that affect it? And then by the time that thought is done, we're 200 meters later and we're too far in to stop now. So I was glad that usually I don't totally know where Joe is watching, but I happened to see him right before I started. So I was able to make eye contact with him, and he was able to break the rules and run on the track and ask the officials to change it.
You've spoken about sub-9 being your goal this year. Is that something that you would try to pursue in the final if the weather is good?
Yeah, I think, the final is the biggest goal in that race is to win. So if the time, I'm not going to kill myself to get that time in the final if it's not happening, but that goal of that race is to finish as high as I can, and I think a fast time will come out of it, but I think Monaco will be a good chance at it, and really I just have to continue to, in both of those races, continue to kind of push past any comfort zones and really attack that time and attack for the win. So, Brussels is important, and I'm glad I'm going, and I'm not sure if the time's going to come there or not. But.
Yeah. Now, I don't think I've seen you speak on Ruth Jebet yet. I know this hasn't come out officially, but it's been reported that she's tested positive. And I'm wondering, what was your reaction to that? Are you surprised at all?
My reaction was, duh. That's kind of how I personally felt. And, I've had many, conversations with Ruth at meets and in call rooms, and she's super friendly and sweet, but that's never, someone's personality, them being really friendly and nice, isn't necessarily an indication of how they choose to compete. And so I think in 2014 she ran, the first time I really noticed her and remember racing her was at the Continental Cup, and I beat her there, and then I think the following year her best was in the 920s. I'm trying to remember, but I don't remember her stats fully. And then the next year she runs 852. So I think with the middle kilometer being low 250s by herself in the heat of Rio. So I think just seeing that jump made a lot of people within the sport suspicious, and I'm not going to hold my breath that she's going to be officially sanctioned, and the rumor is no one can even find her right now. So I'm just going to keep focusing on me, and we always say we have to beat them anyway, whether they're clean or dirty. We have to show up to the starting line prepared the best we can, and be prepared to fight. And I'm just going to focus on myself, and if she gets a ban, that's well deserved if she cheated.
Yeah. Do you think those times, like she ran, 8:52 and 8:55, the next closest I think is 8:58 for anyone else. Do you think those times are attainable, or do you think they're sort of like just floating out there because she may have dove?
I think yes, they're attainable times, but I just think that the jump that she had in the way those races were run, that's what kind of makes you suspicious. If she was someone that's been running low 9 minutes since 2012, and then like every year is chopping down a few seconds, that's like a logical progression. But again, she hasn't been officially sanctioned, or there's been no real official confirmation. So if she's a clean athlete, she's doing some incredible stuff out there, and I think it's possible that other women can do that in a clean way.
Was it tough once you found out, or once you had those suspicions in 2016, was it tough to continue racing against her and be focused?
No, I think at the time I was training with Mark and Heather and Jenny, and the 1500 is women's, men's and women's, but at the time the women's 1500 was pretty suspicious, and so Jenny always had a good attitude of just focusing on herself, and Mark and Heather always had that attitude, and Joe has always had that attitude. So it's again, it's frustrating whenever you line up with someone who you think is maybe not doing it the same way you are, or not tested as frequently as you are. But again, I'm just focusing on myself, and until she's officially punished, I can't I can't really demonize her or speak too poorly of her, because she hasn't fully been charged.
And just to clarify, you think those times are possible, it's just the quickness with which she improved that
Right.
was the red flag. Okay.
Since we're talking about interaction with athletes, how have your competitors' attitude, if at all, changed now that you're the world champion? Do you notice any difference in how they relate to you? Maybe more respect, or?
Oh no, the women's steeplechase, in my experience, in my I've been running Diamond League since 2011, and been on world and Olympic teams since then. So my experience, both domestically and internationally, has always been a really friendly, respectful group of women, and we communicate. I only speak English, and so I'm not as excellent at communicating in other languages, but when the other athletes speak English, we can communicate well. And I remember one meet I cried because I was upset, and one of my Ethiopian competitors wiped my tears away and said, don't cry, you're too nice to cry." And so there's just a real respect amongst each other, and we all want to beat each other, and we're all wanting to win, and that side of it doesn't go away. But the title of world champion hasn't changed anything. It's always been great.
Many world champions